So this is my Premier League predictions for the 26-27 season. Going to do the full table, bottom to top, and going to be going through every team here. So let's get into this. So 20th place, I have put Hull City. I like them. I would like to see them survive. I definitely think there's a world where they do survive. I think tactically they've got a very interesting setup. I like the manager. Last season they've proven what they can do. They've proven they're capable of surprises. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did get a few surprise results along the way, and they did maybe even end up doing it. Maybe finding a way. But I just think they might have large periods without the ball. I think when they get chances, they're going to have to be really clinical. They're going to have to take them, and they're going to have to defend. Defensively, they were very good at times last season, but I think they're going to have to be so organised all the time, and I think it's going to be tough. Like, you look at the level of the Premier League now; it's so difficult. 4 teams coming up. Last season was not what we usually see nowadays. It's a time where maybe it was a bit more common that some of the teams would come up and do quite well, but for two of the three to sort of push on and do really well, particularly Sunderland, doesn't happen often anymore. So I think Hull, for me, I think it could be a bit of a struggle this season, but definitely would not write them off. A few decent signings coming in. I just think the level's so high, and you look last season, the lowest sort of ranked Championship teams sort of come up in a while. It could be tough, I think, for Hull, but definitely wouldn't write them off. 19th place, I put Ipswich. Similar with them, really. Ipswich Town, of course, they've come back up, straight back up. Kieran McKenna leaving, though. I think Kieran McKenna leaving is a bit of a blow because you've got the sort of stability that he brought being there for so long. But Gary O'Neill coming in as a manager that has kept teams up before is worth noting. And I think some of the business for Ipswich has been really good. I think they've done really good business. I think on paper, I think they've had a very, very strong transfer window, and I think for that reason, a lot of people are maybe suggesting maybe they could even be a bit more survive, maybe even in the mid-table. Well, I can see why. I can see why out of the three that have come up, maybe some people would have them as the most likely to stay up. You think, I mean, the three to go, favourites to go down, or the three to come up is one of them seasons. But Ipswich, I do think it could be a bit closer to the relegation. But I'm not sure. I don't think anyone gets completely cut off. I think Ipswich will give it a better go than they did last time out. Whatever happens, I think if they, I definitely could see them surviving. I definitely think they could. I'm just thinking it could be tough, and I think the managerial change does disrupt things a bit. I think with more experience this time, maybe there's a bit more of an argument that they survive. Some of the business though has been good. That I think it's worth talking about. Maheda, very good signing. Chubarak, Prong, and Sisso. I think Diop as well. So I think they've strengthened in all areas, and I think overall they could do it. But I don't know. I just think you look at the level in the Premier League this season. I think it's so difficult nowadays. An 18th place, I have gone for Coventry City. Now, again, Coventry for me, they're a top division club. I want to see them in the Premier League. I want to see them stay up. I really like the club. Frank Lampard being there as well. Really want to see him do well. And I think I think Coventry out of the three, if any one of them's going to do it, I think that for me personally, I think they're most likely. I think they're a well-run club, and if anyone's got the chance to sort of do a Sunderland, maybe be in and amongst. Well, not I wouldn't expect that for many with them, but to be like, safe and maybe even push on and do a bit better. I think it would be Coventry. I think they're a really well-run club. I think Frank Lampard there in the Premier League. I think coming up, I think he's got some good experience behind him now. I think he'll do better this time round as the manager, and I do think Coventry. Like I say, last season winning the championship, they won it and won it well as well. I have to say, they were really, really impressive, and I think they're going to give it a real go, but maybe just fall short because I do like some of the business for Coventry as well. Players like Awani, you've got Oneka coming in on a permanent deal. That's some good business. I think overall, I think they look. I think they've got a good chance, but it's very, very tough nowadays in the Premier League to survive. My 17th place now, I've put Fulham. I think Fulham are going to realise this season how good of a manager Marco Silva really was. The fact he established them as a Premier League club consistently, had them challenging in the top 10 for Europe. I think with hardly any money to spend, they hardly ever bought him any players. I think his could be a problem. Ebola, I think it's hard to judge him on his time at Real Madrid. Only there as interim manager. I think it could go one or two ways. It feels like one that could go really wrong, or feels like one that could also go really right. It's hard to say. They have finally spent a bit of money this window, though. Of course, they have lost a few players, but I think overall they're still a well-established Premier League club. There's still a lot of experience there. Shay Charles could prove to be a decent signing, I think. I think overall Fulham, could have a bit of a tough season just simply because Marco Silva's a top manager, and I think inevitably when he leaves, I think there could be a bit of a drop off. But I do think there's enough there to get them over the line. but it could be a tough one. My 16th place now, I put Newcastle. Now, it might be a wild statement to say, but I'm not convinced Newcastle are going to survive. You think West Ham last season, similar size club, similar types of ownership situation managerial sort of, no one convinced by the manager. Still some top players leaving, not being replaced. I really do worry for Newcastle. I've done a whole separate video a few weeks back about Newcastle. I think the manager's going to struggle, I'll be perfectly honest. Experienced, I think it's going to be a struggle for him. Best players leaving, not really. They have brought in players, but they're unproven players. They've sold proven top world-class quality and brought in to replace them potential, and losing Eddie Howe, who's been there 5 years. I think all of that, and when you think they wasn't actually much better than this last season, they were mid-table last season. I think this will be a tough one for Newcastle. I really do. But I think they might just have enough to stay in the league, but I really think they could have a poor season. 15th place, Crystal Palace. I think they're going to I don't know, it's hard to say. I think the Europa League is key here. I think the fact they're in the Europa League, the fact I think they could go decently far in that, I think could be a factor here. Looks like Warrington's staying, which is a positive, but then it's still I still think that's uncertain. I still wouldn't be surprised if he ends up with Liverpool or even Chelsea if Enzo is to leave. I don't know. I think they've, Bernard Johnson leaving and getting Dwight McNeil in, I think it's a decent, and the swap deal I think is a decent investment, because I think they've got a Premier League proven player. Of course, they have lost players and not replaced them with the same calibre over recent years. I think Oliver Glasner's a top manager. Him leaving, I think again, it's another one of them ones where it could be a bit of a blow. I think they be fine. I'm just thinking mid-table. I'm not sure I see them pushing on. Maybe as some people think they would again, just because I think losing the manager, and again I think becoming a bit of a selling club. I think those factors could come into it. But Warrington's future is key to them. Whether he stays or not could be key here. I don't think Palace will go down, but I do think it could be a mid-table finish for them this season. My 14th place now is Everton. I think some of Everton's business has been interesting. I think they've got a new look attack now, which is interesting. You've got, of course, Dewsbury Hall was so good for them last season. This being his second season, I think he could even go up another level now. I think he's a really, really underrated player. I think, you think Tariq George coming in is, and then obviously, of course, Dwight McNeil leaving and bringing in Bernard Johnson. It's a new look attack, so we're not sure how that's going to go. I think they maybe could do with one more major signing. I think they need one more major addition. I think some of the business has been promising, but I do think they need something else. I don't think they'll be in any trouble, but I've seen a variety of different predictions for them. I've seen a lot of people predicting them close to Europe, a lot of people predicting them really low down. I think they'll be somewhere in the middle at this moment personally, but I think one more big signing, like for example bringing in Jack Grealish back on a permanent, I think could definitely move them up a few places. In David Moyes, you've got the right man in charge there, we'll say that. Home form wasn't great last season. That's something that needs to change this time around. Overall, I see him being mid-table, but again, it's hard to. I think the thing is, you have to do the predictions really before the season starts, when there's still a week or so left of the transfer window. So things could change. My mind would change with if a couple of things was to happen in the transfer window. I will say that, but that applies to quite a lot of teams at this stage. My 13th place, I've put Sunderland. I think it's been difficult for Sunderland to replicate the form of last season, finishing Europa League in the first season. And I do think they're being in the Europa League as well. I think that can be a factor as well. A bit like with Crystal Palace, the European factor can hurt the league form a bit as it gets into the second half of the season, because I would expect a lot of the English clubs to go far in the European competitions this season. That said, Sunderland have done well with the players they've kept this window. So again, like Chaka was going to leave at one point, he's still there. Broby, top player. Reggie Lebris, I think, is a top manager. Very, very good manager. I think, last season it will be difficult to replicate that form, but a lot of people think they might struggle this season. I don't think they'll struggle. I think there'll be a bit of a drop off, but I think they're going to be comfortably mid-table still. I saw enough in their performances last season. There's enough big performances, enough good performances. The home form was really strong. All those factors, I think, still come into play this season. I think Sunderland will still be solid this season. My 12th place now, I put Leeds United. I think they've had a really, really good window. I think they're going to push on this summer. They've improved the goal. After this summer, I think they've they finished so strong last season. Daniel Farker, I think, is a really underrated manager. I really like him. I think he's a really good manager, and I think it would have been a mistake to sack him last season. So I'm glad that they did back him. I do think they they finished strong last season as well, which is key. I think they improved as the season went on. They really sort of started to get used to the level. I think the big results last season as well. I think they took a point off Liverpool. I think they took 4 off Chelsea. They beat Man United as well at Old Trafford when they was on top form as well. So I think you have to say, I think Leeds, based on the window they've had as well, I really rate a lot of the players as well that are already there, but I think improving the goalkeeping situation, Trafford coming in is key. The Bosnian centre back they brought, I think, some really good addition to this side as well. In and I think so. I think they not necessarily a European push, but I think they push on a bit, and they definitely, I think, could be in and amongst the top 10. I think they're going to improve this season. I think, if you look at some players they've got there as well, Harry Wilson coming in, some good experience as well. You've got Numeka in particular, Nonso, Calvert-Lewin, Daniel James, Arneson. I think you've got really, really good selection of players there, really good options. I think they're going to have a good season. My 11th place now, I've put Brentford. I think Brentford, every year people say they'll drop off because of this, they'll drop off because of that. They never seem to. They're such a well-run club. Thomas Frank leaving, that was supposed to be the thing that was going to ruin them. Then the season before was Ivan Toney, and then, when Buemo leaving, all these things that every time it was either the manager leaving like last time, or whether it's players leaving, there's always something like that's going to be the reason Brentford drop off. But they always seem to be all right. They always seem to bring someone else through. They always seem to they've now an established Premier League club, and they've been knocking on the door of Europe for a few seasons now. This is slightly lower than our season, but I don't see too much of a drop off, and I say why, because I do think in previous windows the team's they've had a really, really strong transfer window in the sense that they've not lost any too much. I think the fact that they've still got a really good spine in the team, the fact they've still got at this moment Igor Thiago's here, and his goals alone is enough to keep them comfortable. But I think overall I see Brentford doing well again, and I see them being potentially a top 10 team again. I think they'll be fine. I think there's teams who worry about a lot more than them. I think they've really established themselves now, and I think coming into this season, I think they've had a better transfer window than what they've actually had in previous windows in terms of who they've managed to keep at the club as it stands. So I think based on that, I think they could have another good season. 10th place, I put Nottingham Forest. So I really like the project that they're trying to build at Nottingham Forest. I think Glasner coming in shows some real ambition. Like Leeds, they finished really strong last season as well. I think they're an outside chance for Europe. I think they're one of the teams that could be one of the sort of surprise teams this season. I think Glasner, top manager. I think Diomende coming in, they're showing some real ambition here, and I think, of course, losing Elliot Anderson, but they seem to be, and that was supposed to be the thing that like a lot of people thought they'd struggle because of that. But no, I think losing him, okay, of course it's a blow, but I think they're spending the money wisely. Of course, it was a shame to miss out on Reinders, but I think even the fact they were linked with him shows some real ambition. And I think I like what they're trying to do. I like what they're building here, and I think they're going to have a very, very good season. Nottingham Forest. I think they could surprise a few people. I think they could well be in and amongst the top 10, maybe even more. It's hard to say at this point how good they could do, but I think they've had a very, very good summer transfer window. As it's overall, and I think even with Luther Anderson, I think Gibbs White staying there could be key as well. I think if he stays, I think definitely going to have a good season. Forest. I've gone for 10th place, but it's going to be an interesting one for them, for sure. My 9th place up at Brighton. I think Brighton will be fine. I don't see much of a drop off. Of course, they are in the Conference League, and I think they've got a very good chance of actually going all the way in that. Of course, Welbeck leaving. Balaba could leave. They've of course lost Van Hecker. They always seem to be one of these teams that lose a few players, but I still think there's enough there. I like Herzler as well. I think he's a good manager. I think there's enough there for them to be fine and to be competitive again. They've established themselves as a consistent challenger for Europe now. I don't see too much of a drop off at Brighton this season personally. My 8th place up at Bournemouth. Now, of course, if it works out like last season, 8th place will be a Conference League spot. Bournemouth are in the Europa League this season, and of course that can be a factor, as I've already mentioned in this video. But I do think they're in... Iriola leaving, of course, is a major blow. You've got to remember they're still currently on a massive unbeaten run, a club record unbeaten run in the Premier League that they could carry on over into this season, which will be interesting. I think, Marco Rose, they've brought in from Leipzig, a good record there. I think the fact that they've brought him in straight away as soon as Iriola leaves shows that they have a lot of trust in him. Their pre-season performances have been fantastic for Bournemouth. They look they're playing with a lot of confidence, really free scoring team. Alex Scott staying is good. Of course, they've lost a few players such as Senesi, but they bring in Silva to replace him. So I think overall the business has been very good, and they made some promising additions in a few other areas as well. Bournemouth have kept key players as well. Trythert as well, player I really like. I think could do quite well this season. I think there's a lot to be excited about from a Bournemouth perspective. I really, really like the team they've built. I feel like now, again, I don't see too much of a drop off there either. They were one result away from the Champions League last season. I think they're going to be up there again. I think personally, I think they're going to do really well again. My 7th place now used to be Europa League if we're going off of how it worked last season, which I think there's a good chance it will, because I think a lot of the teams will do quite well in Europe next season. 7th place for Aston Villa. And I say that because I do think it's been a bit of a selling window for them. Of course, losing Morgan Rogers is a major blow. Will they lose Ollie Watkins? I think that could really hurt them if they do. But as it stands, it looks like he's staying. I don't rate the Garnacho signing, but Emery obviously has faith in him. That's the thing with Villa. They've got top manager in Emery. But I think Wanzami is a really, really good addition. It looks like they might lose Edric Konsa as well. Tielemans going. Emi Martinez going, but I think the goalkeeper they brought in, Suzuki from the Japanese goalkeeper, we've seen him play at the World Cup. He's fantastic. I think that's a good addition. But I think in other areas they have been weakened a bit. They're in the Champions League. It would be great for Villa if they could go back to back Champions League qualification. But I think it's be tough. I think they've lost. It's been a tough window. But I do think in Emery they've got a great manager, and I think there's enough there to be up there again, but maybe falling short a bit of the Champions League push. Also, Europa League would be 6th place next season. Now, 6th place up at Spurs. Now, the 3 clubs, 6th, 5th and 4th, honestly, I think, wouldn't be surprised if it's any order. This is the part of the league I was least confident in predicting, because I honestly could flip 6th to 4th around completely. But 6th for now, I've put Spurs. De Zerbi, you look at how much he turned them around when he came in last season. The summer transfer window has been arguably the best in terms of how much they've improved that anyone's had. This would be 11th places higher than last season. They've had back-to-back 7th place finishes. I don't just think they'll be more convincing this season. I think they're going to be in Europe, I think, at least, and I wouldn't be surprised if they're like a real dark horse. I wouldn't be surprised if they get top 4. I really wouldn't. I think the transfer business has been fantastic, and I think in De Zerbi they've got a proven manager. We see what he did last season when he came in. You've got to think players come back from injury as well. Maddison, Kulusevski, on top of the signings they've made. Fantastic additions to the team. Van Hecke. You've got, of course, Fernandez, Tonali. The only thing they could do is another backup striker. Savinho, we've had the new Savinho's gone in there as well. They've overpaid for him a bit, but they've wanted him for a while and they've got him now. They've really just rebuilt the team so well, and I really have to say, I do think they're going to have a really good season. I've got to say, I think they're going to really, really push on a lot this season. I think they're going to be a real problem for a lot of teams this season, Spurs, I have to say. In bringing in Robertson as well, they've done a similar thing to what Chelsea have done with Henderson, in the sense that they've got someone there with experience and to kind of guide the younger players, good person to have around the camp, and it's someone you can bring on in the bigger games as well for half hour here and there when you need a calm head on the pitch, someone you can play like midweek games as well, perhaps as well. Spurs not in Europe as well. And yeah, I think they're going to. I think they're going to do very well. Senesi as well, coming as well, complete new look defence. I think they've sold the players they need to sell as well. The goalkeeper situation, I think the guy they got in goal now looks all right for sure. Yeah, I think they're going to have a very good season, Spurs, I have to say. And 5th place up at Chelsea, but I would have gone 4th or 3rd if we had signed a new keeper. I think Robert Sanchez's mistakes he makes could potentially cost us points. That said, we've improved the defence, and also look at the goals we've been scoring. I think we're going to score loads of goals. The front line is looking fantastic. João Pedro just keeps improving, and Danny Welbeck can play with him. They can play instead of each other or with each other, meaning that it's a whole new problem for opposition to think about there. You think Fernandez, whether he stays or goes, I do think we sign a Roby replacement if he leaves, so I'm not too worried about that as much as like I maybe would have been before. What I'm most worried about is the fact we haven't signed a top goalkeeper. I think we need to improve the goalkeeping situation. Robert Sanchez is a good shot stopper, but his distribution is one of the worst in the league, which you need to have good distribution. Now we cannot seem to kick the ball to a Chelsea player, and just the mistakes, the amount of mistakes that he's made over the previous seasons that have led to goals. I think that's a real worry, and I think that's the thing that was holding me back from putting us even higher. I think it's going to be interesting. So 5th place would be a Champions League finish though, so that would be kind of, I feel like the objective for the season has got to be qualify for the Champions League and maybe try and win one of the domestic cups as well. I think that's got to be the objective for the season. And I support Chelsea. I've done so many videos on Chelsea so that you can look back on over the previous weeks, over the transfer window. We'll go into real detail about it. But based on my prediction here, my honest prediction, I think this is what I'm going to go for. I see us being somewhere from 6th to 3rd, and I think it does all depend on what we can do for the rest of the window if we do anything else for the rest of the window. But defence has improved so much. We're going to have Colwill back from injury, Reece James back from injury. We're going to have Lacroix in there now, Chavarria, Palestra. All of this lot can play multiple systems effectively, which is key because Alonso's going to want to change the system at some point. We've got the attacks improved so much. Esteval come back from injury. Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, João Pedro. What a front line that is. I think there's so many positives. I think we're going to score a lot of goals, and I think all over the pitch we've improved every position, bar the goalkeeper, which is my one concern. My fourth place, I put Man City. This is what I mean. Sixth to fourth, I could have gone any order. I'm not convinced by Man City. I'm not convinced by Maresca there, to be perfectly honest. I do think, though, they've got so much quality in this team. And Maresca on his day is very good, but we also see worrying things as well. I think the fact that the Community Shield was a worry to a point with it, because it is only still technically a pre-season game. But I do think there was some worrying signs there, and I think there could be a transitional period. I think City might take some time here, and are they going to give the manager time? Are they going to be patient? They're so used to winning, it's hard to say how it's going to go. It could be a real wake-up call in some ways. And I think Haaland's goals, are going to be key. He could, because of the quality they've got in the team, Anderson coming in, potentially Fernandes or Brody or even McAllister's been mentioned. I think they're going to, bring in some players. They've already brought in one. I think they will bring in someone else for that midfield role. But Rodri leaving, what a blow. Even with new signings, what a blow that is. I think overall City should still be up there. I'm thinking at this moment top 4 or top 5. I'm thinking qualifying for the Champions League, but I do think it could be a bit of a tough one, bit of a transitional one. My third place, I put Liverpool. I still think they need to do some business though, but it's looking like Ricola is going to go there, and I'm kind of basing it off of that. Another defender going in there wouldn't hurt, but I think Arejo is a promising signing. Munoz, I think, could be good. They got one in early on. A lot of people have forgotten about that. I think Iraola is a very, very good manager. I think he's going to do well, and I think Liverpool might do a bit better than people expected. I'm not as worried for them as I think some other people are. I think title challenge, could they be in that conversation? I think it depends how the season goes. It depends. I think could we see a 3-4 team title race deep into the season? Maybe. It'll be tough for a lot of teams next season, but I do think that the title race might be a bit closer than some people think, because my second place I've gone for is Man United, because I think Michael Carrick is going to take them up another level this season. I really do. I think a lot of people are underestimating them coming into the season. A lot of people are saying they're overrated, they're going to drop off. Personally, I don't see that. I actually think, and this is coming from a non-biased perspective as well, of course, I actually think they're going to have a really, really good season. I could see them pushing in the title race. I think that if there is going to be a title race, a proper title race that goes all the way, I think they're one of the teams that I can see being involved in it. I think they've strengthened the squad. They've strengthened the depth of the squad for being in the Champions League. I don't see the Champions League being as big of an issue and as big as a distraction as what people think. Because, okay, last season, minimal amount of fixtures, 40 games, right? Out of the cup, earliest possible point. But they've not only deepened the squad, but they've improved the level so much. And you think last season, when Carrick come in there, mid-table, it's not like the first half of the season, they didn't make the use of not being in Europe at all. First half of the season, under Amorim, they were shocking. That Carrick was brought in midway through the season when I think there was 11th when he come in, and they just hardly lost since he come in. Their performances would just improved so much. They beat City, they beat Arsenal at the Etihad, they beat pretty much every top team in the league, and pretty much proven on their day they could beat anyone. And I think a little bit more consistency last season, they wouldn't have been far off of top 2 last season. So the level they were playing at last season looked closer to the top 2 than, in my opinion, than it did to 7th, the teams that are missing out on Champions League. They were comfortably Champions League in the end last season, a lot more than the other teams in the conversation. I think this time around, at least top 3 Champions League. I think they'll be the Champions League comfortably. But I think there'll be a strong Champions League team that has qualified for the Champions League convincingly, and have got the potential to push on further. Of course, it will be tough for Fernandes to replicate the form of last season, but I think the fact he's still there is so important. I think they could do with improving the goalkeeper situation. They could do with a few more additions, but potentially signing Balaba, could be key. Rashford coming back's like a new signing as well. And the business they have done has been fantastic. And in terms of value, less than 50 million for Tielemans, probably one of the best deals of the window. In terms of value, I would say is the best deal of the window. The fact he's less than 50 million for a player like that. And they've strengthened the depth in the midfield so much. Andrew Santos going there as well does strengthen the depth in that position. And if you look overall, they have got a lot of depth now. And I think players like Cunha are going to have a good year again. And Buemo, I think, could have a good year. I think Sesko, look at his improvement towards the back end of last season. And it's similar both with United and Liverpool. They both got interesting striker situations because you've got Sesko at United that's shown significant improvement towards the end of last season. I do think it's going to have a better season this time around. You've got Isak coming back for Liverpool. That's like a new signing. How quickly will he get up to speed? Will he be able to be the same player he was at Newcastle? Is a different question, but I do think he'll make a difference. So I think the striker situation is quite interesting for both of them too. And for me, I think they're going to be the top two of the top three, Man United and Liverpool. I think they're going to really have got the potential to really challenge for the league. But of course, I've stuck with Arsenal for my first place. Do I see him being as convincing as some people have said? I'm not sure. I think a lot does depend on other teams. Obviously, the level that has got to improve from everyone, right? To challenge Arsenal, that's because they was convincingly better than everyone last season. It's got to be said. Even if City did throw it away, but in the end, I think over the course of the season, Arsenal always did look in control. The fact they hardly conceded any goals, so strong defensively. Saliba being out injured is a worry, but they're looking to bring in Constance. They're looking to just strengthen this transfer window. Soler, I think, could prove to be a promising addition. Lost Trossard, but again replaced. Like I say, replacement in. You've got Guimaraes going in there, which look at the pressure that's going to take off Rice. They've now got another top level midfielder in there to go with him as well, meaning he can have a rest at times, meaning that they can play together, and I think they're going to be really problematic for everyone they come up against when they play together. It's difficult to see, at the moment for me, it's difficult to see them not going back to back. They've never done that in the Premier League era before, gone back to back. But Arteta, now's the manager's beat. He's now the longest serving manager. The tables are completely turned because it's now Arsenal with the proven winner. It's always been them. Up till last season, it's always been the pressure on them. They've got to do it. They've got to find a way to get over the line. Now they've done that. They're playing without the same level of pressure. And I think that's really that could be, it's a scary prospect for a lot of teams that. I think they might even make one or two more additions as well. Maybe another winger, maybe even another forward. Maybe they'll make an addition for one of those two areas on top of the defence. We'll see. There's still time left in the window. Some big deals can happen on deadline day still. And even if they don't, I think the team, they could have too much next season. I think it's going to be, maybe it'll be close. Maybe I think they could get a challenge because it's very difficult to go back to back. Since I'm pretty sure no one's gone back to back, apart from with the exception of Man City. No, in the Guardiola era, no one's gone back to back since Chelsea. I don't think. 4 or 5 and 5 or 6. But so it's very difficult to do. But I think this team's got all the makings of the team, of a team that can do that. I think the defensive structure is just so good. They're so difficult to score goals against. They just don't give any weak chances away. They've got David Raya, best in the business. You've got so many options in every position, such a good squad now, and now it's a team of winners as well, which now they've got that experience, I think can make a massive difference this season. So that's my thoughts in terms of Premier League predictions. In terms of top scorer, I think Haaland's just obviously the banker for that, but I do think there's a lot of other players it's worth giving a shout to. Players like João Pedro, players like maybe even potentially Alexander Isak if he can get up and running. Players that I would mention for that as well. You've got Thiago, he's so good last season, could definitely be up there again. To be fair, Danny Welbeck, I do think is going to get some minutes, quite a few minutes for Chelsea. He is a player that was right up there last season as well. So there's a lot of potential names that's put forward for that. I've already mentioned, I think some of the signings of the window. I think Morgan Rogers is going to be a fantastic addition. I think Tielemans, in terms of value, is a good addition. But in terms of what he brings to United as well, but I think the fact that he got him for less than 50 million, as I said, I think is really good. I think the fact that Spurs transfer window they've had is unbelievable. Tonali, in particular, is the signing that I want.